An exclusive preview from Steel and Stone by Silvana G. Sanchez. Chapter 1. A coup! I startled, reluctant to believe Melith could fathom the penalties of treason. Stunned, I stared at the woman before me who, but a few weeks ago, had been a graceful princess, comely and subdued in nature, dressed in the finest silk gowns and the most exquisite jewels. Now, her breeches clung to her like a second skin. A rogue brand marked her delicate wrist, and her ebony tresses hung down in wild, fay-like braids. I struggled to recognize her beneath this new facade. The warrior queen before me was a far cry from who she had once been. "Look around the great hall," Melith intoned. "Do you see the Fae hovering around the musicians' platform? They will be my sword and shield. See the men cloaked in black hoods. They are the most powerful mages known to man, the Seven." "Mercenaries of magic," I muttered in stern disapproval. Legends spoke of them as the most brutal raiders, and I had no wish to join their undesirable fellowship. "Stay close to your sword, Philip," Melith warned me, her determined eyes burning into mine. "Battle and blood are coming." Sheer black dread washed over me as I heard the words, not for my sake, but for what I knew would come of them. "Battle and—" I managed, disbelief tinging my voice. "No." I shook my head, the blood freezing in my veins as I stepped back, noticing the hooded figures hidden in the bustling horde gathered in Whitehaven Castle for the Fey King's coronation. An ambush was coming, and it would bring bloodshed and death to all in its wake. Innocent lives of both men and Fey would be stolen by this cruel scheme. The gods knew I despised the Fey, but I would not wish this grim fate upon my worst enemy. I glanced at Melith, knowing I alone could never stop the turning wheels of such a merciless strategy. "Philip," she whispered, leaning closer. "Will you fight with me?" I clenched my jaw. "No," I replied firmly, taking one more step away from her, towards the great hall. "I will have no part in this." Her expression faltered in shock, but I continued. "I certainly did not come here to start a war, not when we've reached a brittle alliance with the Fae." I paused, desperately reading Melith's face, searching for the slightest shift in her conviction. But failing to discover it, I pressed on. "You've been away for too long. Have you not seen the bloodshed they brought on when they marched into this land?" Dread seeped from my heart and streamed through my veins as my thoughts turned away to a helpless kingdom by the sea. But Melith's face froze into a cold mask of apathy. "I will have my crown," she stated, unwavering. "I will take back the White Throne, with or without you." "I see how it is," I nodded, barely containing my outrage. "I have my own kingdom to look after." I turned to the threshold, fury hardening my expression as I faced her one last time, and added, "May the gods help us all if your recklessness leads to ruin." As I stormed out of the castle, my pulse quickened with rising apprehension. A shiver spread through my being as the first laced snowflakes danced in the icy wind. "Captain!" I growled. Despair strained my voice as I darted to the stables. White mist fled my mouth with each panting breath. "Captain!" I squinted through the mist, my gaze landing on Captain Moreskill, clad in burnished bronze armor. My captain stopped sharpening his blade and swayed towards the sound, ice-blue eyes peering through the helm's slit. Recognizing my wariness, Captain Moreskill seized my steed's reins and mounted a cream-coated horse, spurring them forward and galloping to meet me. "A rebellion against the crown brews in Whitehaven as we speak," I said, breathless, as I bestrode my horse. "I fear the toll the Fae's wrath might claim upon us. Steelborn Castle must prepare for an imminent siege." I seized the reins and tugged as my horse pawed at the ground, restless. "Send word to the king immediately." "Your Highness?" My captain replied with a frown, confused. "I don't understand. Are you not coming?" "No," I said firmly, gliding a hand along my ride's shining neck as I appeased his temper. "Easy there, easy," I whispered into his ear. My horse whinnied in response and settled as I did the same. My captain gasped in exasperation. In one swift move, the helm came off, clattering beneath the shining bracer, and heavy locks of light blonde hair fell over both pauldrons. "Where are you going?" she almost demanded, her face hardened with tenacity. I'd never allow such insolence from an ordinary soldier, but Captain Moreskill had fought many battles by my side. The strife of war had forged genuine kinship between us, but beyond that, my father had raised us as siblings, although no blood linked us. "Stonewall," I replied. "I must warn them." "To the Stone Keep?" I can do that, she replied earnestly. You should be with your father. His health has dwindled considerably since— You know full well my unspoken reasons for leaving, Eloise, I argued, my stare burning into hers. Do not make me state them. Philip, she continued. Her chest heaved with fury, passion, I knew not which. You cannot be serious. Not after what she did. Her voice dropped in discretion, as if in deference to the secret she and I withheld. She did nothing wrong, I whispered, hurt and regret tangled in my voice as I lowered my gaze. For months, I'd sought respite in unworthier arms, hoping that might numb the pain of Aurora's betrayal. She broke your heart! Eloise exploded, a scowl twisting her mouth. I will not discuss this matter with you, I replied, my tone harsher than I would have wished. Do not forget, you are my captain. Now do as I ask. My horse strut forward, finally crossing the gates. The canter of Captain Moreskill's horse echoed mine, until a furred cloak and a pair of leather gloves flew towards me. A storm is coming. You'll freeze to death if you ride out of here dressed like that. I slipped the gloves over my numbed fingers and fastened the cloak to my shoulders, hearing her say, Your Highness. When I looked up, Captain Moreskill nodded, and yanking the reins, her stallion reared, snorting clouds of vapour into the frosty night. Steel and courage to the end, she declared, and galloped into white plains of snowy fields. Steel and courage, I replied in a daze, my heart heavy with the prospect of the harshest times to come. Your Highness, is that you? A melodic voice crooned, full of adoration. My gaze snapped to the sound's source, stumbling on a group of high fae lords and ladies riding towards the castle. I'd seen too much of their kind these past few days, more than I would have wanted. The fae. I loathed them with my every breath. I was but a child when they'd stolen my mother from me, their magic doing nothing for her health but hasten her death. But I was no fool, and knew that current events demanded dealing with the fae if one wished to live, and my head must remain in place if two kingdoms so dear to me were to stand a chance of surviving. My lips curved into a tight smile, and I replied, Good evening, my lady. Prince Phillip Steelborn, another one uttered, my name dripping from his tongue like honey laced with mockery. I've heard the legends, but never thought I'd see you in the flesh. How fares your father, the king? Rage painted my face as I forced myself to stay calm. He fares well, I replied with feigned warmth. The high fae lady smirked, a glint of cruelty in her gaze. Are you leaving, my prince? She purred. So soon? I slightly bowed my head, refusing to meet her challenging gaze. I'm afraid so, my lady. My voice came strong and unyielding. Your Highness. The leader of the group spoke, his amethyst eyes alight with amusement. The high fae bowed low from atop his horse. I nodded in acknowledgement, and spurred my horse towards the horizon, leaving behind the frost-blanketed grounds. As I raced into the wintry night swathed in silver moonlight, I feared not for my kingdom. Steelborn Castle possessed a powerful army and more than enough supplies to outlast the longest siege. But Stonewall was not as fortunate, and its rightful ruler slumbered by the cruelest enchantment, unaware of the forthcoming danger. This has been a preview of Steel and Stone by Silvana G. Sanchez. Steel and Stone is the second installment in the Cursed Kingdom series and is available on pre-order now in all major bookstores.